Hey, howdy do out there everyone, my name is Michael and welcome to the Doot Corner where I do the doodles for practice and fun. Happy New Year's everybody, Merry late Christmas, and I hope you've all been enjoying winter. I certainly have, although I'm a little bit sick now. I just did some excellent skiing yesterday, but that was probably, as nice as it was, also the reason that I'm feeling sick. If I sound bad, it's definitely that, and not because I'm bad at using the microphone. But as for why we're here, today's episode is the culmination of nearly 20 hours of work and a lot of planning spread across the last 2 months dating all the way back to when my brother and I started college, and ending in one of my favorite and most absolute best projects this year. We went to visit his college for move-in day, and while we were there, my parents went to go look at the school store, because of course they wanted knickknacks to celebrate the occasion. My brother and I, of course, abstained, thinking that it was stupid because it was something like $40 for the cheapest t-shirt with just the littlest print of their boring as hell little logo on it. I'm not saying their logo is bad, but $40 for a blank t-shirt with their logo printed on the corner, not so much. It was definitely a cash grab for the emotional parents. At some point in the day, I postured to my mother that I could make a better shirt of my own for the college and give it to him. And that, though no more than a passing thought at the time, stuck with me and nagged me until the day in history class when I was taking notes, I started doodling up some ideas and doing research on styles that I thought might be interesting to implement. I wasn't really liking it all at first, and I was almost going to scrap the idea, but at the very last sketch, I kinda hit some inspiration. So a few weeks later, I loaded up Illustrator and started uploading reference pictures. The short of the long is that this project is done exactly the same as every other project I've done. I just spent a very exhaustingly long time working on this one, and it was a lot more meaningful the way that I designed it. See, my brother is at UNE, which is a sciences-based school on the coast of Maine, which does a lot of marine life stuff, which is what he's there for. Obviously, that means that the shirt had to be marine-oriented. But I wanted more than that. Their logo was boring, and I wanted some pizzazz. So, as you can probably notice in the undersketches, I was trying to find ways to melt the objects and nautical creatures together into something that shaped out UNE. I subtly asked him for a survey determining the most perfect whale, which he kinda just accepted. It's great because I always act a little like I'm crazy and unpredictable with my brothers, so no one really questions when I do something crazy or unpredictable. And that worked out really well for this, because he just sort of accepted that I was asking him which whale was the best out of the blue with no warning or reason. And he answered the narwhal. Close second being the beluga. Objectively, I think he said the sperm whale, but his favorite was the narwhal. So I made him a narwhal, which was meant to be the U. Then I made him a little boat, which was meant to be the same style of boat that we first used in our last D&D campaign called the Sea Fox, which has its own whole long-standing story. There was a lot of different versions of the Sea Fox, and it was kind of a running thing that we had going on, and it was most definitely all of our favorite campaign. It was also just about the right shape and size to be one of his school's boats. I think it's called a schooner, or a schooner. Don't get me on that. I don't know boats or anything about boats. I used the mast and the ropes of the boat to make the N. And then I tried that lobster pot idea, but it turned out that this was going in a more realistic direction than I had initially intended, so I couldn't make it so cartoonishly big. And then I thought, hey, why not the storm? At one point we had visited the campus earlier that year for admissions day, or some kind of admissions day at least, and there was a hockey game that we attended while there. And I recalled seeing the slogan, "Into the Storm." I literally couldn't find any reference to it anywhere else online, but I remember seeing it there on the campus, and I did like the idea. So, regardless of my inability to actually prove that it existed and it wasn't just a figment of my imagination, I went with Into the Storm and decided to make a giant storm to frame the whole scene and have the boat flying into this long storm wall cloud, sailing into adventure.
Adventure awaits!
And the lightning flash became not only the E, but also an excuse for me to rim light all the other letters to make them more visible. I did some quick surveying with a couple of people that I knew, mostly my parents and apparently my parents' friends because they just shared it out to them. Out of all of the survey size, my mother was the only one who got the UNE immediately and everyone else couldn't fathom it, so I definitely needed something to make it more visible. There was a lot of thoughtful little notes in there. I have a kraken breaking up from the depths to signify me. All of my siblings call me Squid. It used to be my gamer tag that I went by. I guess it still is, but I don't really game so much anymore. The lighthouse that I stuck in towards the end is one of the lighthouses in Maine that we visited near the school. The dog is Grandmother Wonk, modeled after his favorite dog of our family's dogs, of which we have long-standing lore that only he can tame, for Wonkmother calls to no other master. And then there's the duck, commanding the ship at the top of the mast, way up in the crow's nest. That was made to represent him. We call him Duck, or Dr. Duck, or Duck Boy, or any variation of Duck. That was also a game tag thing that stuck. And as the lore goes it, that all existence lies within the great pond, and the sacred duck, which is him, rules over its surface, while the kraken rules below, and there are other mighty rulers all around everywhere, on the shore, in the sky. It's this whole mythology that we've made over the last couple of years involving groups from D&D and just things that we've made up in our own household with my siblings. I should really probably explain it more, but there's just so much lore, actually, to this little fan-made universal mythology that's been crafted over the years that I think it needs its own whole video to explain. The point being is, he likes the dog and we call him Duck, and I'm the squid. So, there we go. RV Squack stands for Research Vessel. I had to do some research on that, because presumably his profession is going to be something in marine research. Some kind of marine research, at least. I don't know what kind. Maybe penguins. And I even made the flag orange because that's his favorite color to wear. If I could have, I would have added a penguin. Penguins are what got him interested in marine biology, I think, and they're also like one of his favorite marine animals. Also under the command of the great duck, mind you, because they are a waterfowl. I just didn't think of that until the print was already at the printer, so that was kind of, I was unable to change it at that point. But I think it's just fine without the pen. The whole thing was meant to be this self-referential note to him, containing everything that I could think of that thoughtfully related to his life and interests. And that's why it's one of my favorites, really. I absolutely adore InDesigns when the whole thing is its own symbol full of symbols. And it doesn't have to scream a message or be made so specifically that no one else can use it. But for instance, that's why I love the OA design so much. It was all symbolic. It was pretty on the outside and anyone could wear it. But the more you know, the more you can relate all those pieces as symbols. The colors of the arrows, the directions, the shapes that I used, and the objects that were in there. And I love that. There isn't anything useless about it. Everything is there for a reason. And not just because I needed it to fill space. But on the note of the actual work, after sizing it all up was done, I went to Krita and used some of the default water paint brushes to create textures for each of the elements, then used clipping masks to fit them into the shapes in Illustrator. The masks were then masked into a circle, which I thought looked a little bit empty, so I made a border out of a ship wheel, which is made of a rope and has an anchor in it. All nautical symbolism. But, even more symbolically, a fleur-de-lis, which is that peeled corncob looking thing down there in the center, right above the anchor. It's a running gag that all me and him ever wear are Scout Class Bs, because it's all we have. And it's true. Me and him have almost 100% of our closets full of years and years worth of Class Bs. So I decided to add the fleur-de-lis, so it technically counts as a Class B because it bears the symbol used to denote the Boy Scouts, and therefore does not break the unbroken bloodline of Class Bs, which is a joke that I hope he gets and enjoys. I clipped more textures into the outline to extend the image outward. It was a bloody painful process, absolutely dreadful, and it was a lot of pixels at that point, so my computer was starting to lag out, but I finally got it done, and I got it right, and it looked really nice. So, I sent it off to the printer. Now, here's the best part of all this. Maybe not the best part, but a definitely very good part. One of my Christmas gifts. One that methinks went a little bit over the top. My parents like to go really well and beyond for gifts, and they bought me a starter dye sublimation kit, including paper, shirts, the sublimation printer itself, and a heat press. It's a little rudimentary, but that's good for me starting out. And I've learned that there are some pretty hard stop limits to what sublimation can do, but it does open a whole lot of doors, a whole world of things that I can make, and I don't even have to wait. I can just make whatever I want, whenever I want, all the time, and print it for myself as long as I have paper and ink, or even do a little sale of my work. Now how it relates. I can heat press those vinyl designs I just got for the shirts myself with ease now, onto any shirt that I want. Now for the bit of a disappointing part. Not only did these prints, along with many other gifts, come a week later than Christmas. Please see Sad Boy Christmas for details, but many of the projects that I was working on for other Christmas gifts were also total flops. I had at least 3 other really big ones that I had planned for family members that I just wasn't fast enough or persistent enough or even skilled enough to craft in time in the time frame that I had set for myself. So those, I guess, will just have to be later episodes or saved for birthdays or other events or, God forbid, next Christmas. But I hope that this was enough. I think it made for a pretty excellent story time, and honestly, considering how long this video ended up being, I don't even know how I would have fit more than one project in, and still talked about them thoughtfully. So I hope you all enjoyed this story time. I had a lot of fun making this project, and a lot of fun working on the video. It's great to see months of planning and hours upon hours of work finally come around into something. Not just a nebulous design on the computer, but a fully finished, printed piece that I'm wearing right now. If you did enjoy, and I certainly hope you did, I would also hope that you would consider helping us sail off into the archipelago of next year's with all that likes and subscribble stuff. I got a lot of cool plans thanks to your comments and inputs on polls and all the stuff that's been floating around in my head for years that finally think I'm ready to try out with the practice that I did this year. Thanks for all the support this year, and again, Happy New Year's to you all. Have a great whenever you're seeing this because time zones confuse me, and without further ado, farewell for the last time in 2023.